conversations as well. And so in this example, if we go into the chat, you'll see that there is that same chat meeting before, and there's a file that was attached. Now, what you'll notice about this file is that you can apply different sensitivity labels to the specific files, and these could actually automatically be applied based off of the sensitive content that may exist. In addition to this, you'll see that a banner is notifying the user that they're not allowed to download, print, or sync using this device because this actually happens to be their personal machine and not a machine that is managed by Intune and a device that is managed by the organization. And so with the flexibility of being able to still get work done, the security and compliance that is expected of making sure that sensitive data isn't accessed or downloaded on non-approved machines is kept intact here. But as we think about how people work, one of the key and core elements of Microsoft Teams that make it so unique in the industry from a collaboration solution is the ability to co-author documents. And so with the recently announced capabilities, you'll be actually able to co-author encrypted documents. So here you're seeing two documents side by side, one's on Windows and one's on a Mac, and users will be able to co-author this experience to be able to work at the exact same time. And so these files could be stored inside of Microsoft Teams from a chat and channel perspective. But if a user were to download this file and put it onto a USB, well, that actual file would be encrypted, and those same encryption controls would be put into effect here. Let's take this scenario and keep expanding on it a little bit. What if I'm a user and I want to be able to, as an organization, block the ability for people to download files from Teams meetings, for example? So with our CloudOps security capabilities, we can ensure that sensitive files that have been marked with certain sensitivity labels can actually be prevented from being downloaded. And then it'll also be tracked and notify the user of a violation for being able to download that content. So here's that same sensitive file again. And if the user goes in to go and download the file, they're actually going to be presented with a message that said, sorry, that file has been blocked from being downloaded. And a text file actually gets downloaded, letting the user know that that file is no longer being able to be downloaded. And if the user tries to go in and actually go and download that file, it's also preventing that access. But what if we're inside of a Teams meeting and we are looking at sensitive content, but we don't want sensitive content to be viewed by people who don't have access or shouldn't have rights to see that content? And so one of the unique capabilities of Teams and the Microsoft 365 platform is those same labeling capabilities to be able to protect your content. So here you're seeing an example of a user trying to share a sensitive secret file that has been classified. Now, when the user goes in to try to share that sensitive file to a user that is maybe outside of the organization, the user is then presented with a message that says, sorry, this file is encrypted, it has rights, it cannot be shared. But what if this user thought that they were smarter than the service and said, look, let me go and share via the built-in PowerPoint sharer inside of the Teams meeting. And so when the user goes to share that specific file, you're going to see from their perspective, it looks like it's being shared, but from the other user perspective, nothing is actually being shared because that content is marked as being sensitive. But what about the scenario? Well, the user thinks they're even more smarter than the service, so they're like, I'm just going to go share my whole desktop. That'll work. Well, because of the built-in capabilities of the information protection service, you're going to see that as the user tries to share, none of those files are actually being shared. You actually even saw there for a brief moment that the toolbar was showing at the bottom, but the actual application itself wasn't being able to be shared. And then you can define specific access rights to ensure that this, when content is highly sensitive, that it can't be shared with inappropriate parties. So what you saw up to this point is a lot of our built-in capabilities to protect sensitive pieces of content and even protect the meeting experiences. But there are more security controls that are built into Teams meetings and Teams in general itself. We've got Microsoft Defender for Office 365 that will help ensure that malicious files and links and documents that may have malicious items in it are protecting your user experiences to prevent things like encrypting all your files or ransomware attacks. And there are other capabilities, as you saw a little bit there earlier, with our conditional access policies to say if a user is using an unmanaged device Well, we're going to make sure that they don't have access to that content until they use a device that is managed by the